Notes for section 1.5, solving inequalities. I'm going to work through 4 examples for you here on how to solve an inequality in addition to making its graph on the number line. Please make sure that you look at page 33 in your textbook, page 34, example 1, and page 35, example 2. This will give you additional examples to take a look at. So solving an inequality is very much like solving an equation. The only difference is rather than having an equal sign, you will now see something like this. This is our inequality. In this case, it is greater than. So we have 9x is greater than 3. So we're going to do the same steps as if it was an equation. We have a 9 in front of the x. Our goal is to get the x by itself. So in order to do that, we're going to use our inverse operations. The opposite of 9 times x would be division. So we're going to divide both sides by 9. All right. And when I divide both sides by 9, that means I have x is greater than 1/3 if you want to leave it as a fraction. Or if you want to go up to a decimal, 1/3 would be about 0.3. Repeating if you want to put the little bar over the top. Usually with fractions, I would go decimal. It's better. It gives you a better idea of where you're going when you get to the number line. All right. On page 33, there's some diagrams there that talk about the number lines and whether or not you shade to the right or to the left, and whether or not it should be an open circle or a closed circle. So again, please make sure you look on page 33. In our example here, it says x is greater than, let's go with the 0.3. All right, so the first thing I need to do is figure out, well, where is 0.3 on my number line? So when you're graphing your decimals, again, you're going to make a little bit of a guess here. I have this labeled as my 0, and this is 1, and I know 0.3 is going to be between there a little bit, so a little bit closer to the 0 than to the 1. So I put an open circle here. This represents my 1/3 or my 0.3. Since my inequality says x is greater than means I'm going to shade all the numbers that are bigger or greater than. Those would be all these numbers here going to the right. And what that means is any of these numbers on my shaded part of the number line, the 1 or the 2 or 3, if I were to take those numbers and substitute them into my inequality, I would get a true statement. All right. Question number 2. We have 4x plus 5 less than or equal to a negative 23. All right, this one would be similar to what we used to call a two-step equation because there's 2 things that we need to do. You'll notice that there's a 4 right in front of the x, and then there's a plus 5. So the first thing I'm going to have to do here is we're going to move the 5. So we're going to go minus 5 from both sides. All right, and again, you can do this on your calculator to make sure you don't make any mistakes with your signs. So when I do that, I have 4x less than or equal to my negative 23 minus a 5, that should give you negative 28. All right, and then my last step here, it says 4 times x. I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 4. All right, that means I have x is less than or equal to negative 7. All right, you can see I already have my number line started here, so let's take a look. Here I have my 0 on the number line, and then I put my little dashes here. You don't really need to number everything, just make sure that I know exactly where your numbers are. So I put the key number on here, which is my negative 7. Since this one says x is less than or equal to, you'll notice that in this one I have a solid dot, okay, compared to number 1 where I had an open dot. And that's because this time we have this equal, okay, less than or equal to. All right. And since it says less than, I got my solid dot on the negative 7. Less than means I'm going to shade my number line going to the left. So all of these numbers to the left, negative 7, negative 8, negative 9, again, would be solutions to my inequality. All right. Number 3. All right, a little more work to do on this one. You'll notice this time we have some parentheses in there. We have that negative 2 out in front. So that does mean we're going to have to distribute. So that's the first thing. We're going to take our negative 2 times x. We're going to take negative 2 times a 9. All right, so that would give me a negative 2x minus 18. And now you can see it looks similar to what we did in number 2. So again, I need to somehow or another, we're going to work with this number and work with this, trying to get the x alone. So starting with the minus 18, I would have to go plus 18 to both sides. And that would leave me negative 2x greater than or equal to 21. All right, we have a negative 2 in front of the x, so to get rid of that, we're going to divide both sides by negative 2. All right, now here is the one probably most important thing about inequalities that makes it a little different than our equations. Whenever you divide by a negative, so in this case we divided by a negative 2, you are going to have to flip the inequality symbol. All right, so when I divided both sides by negative 2, I've got x, and again you'll notice I flipped my inequalities. Now it says less than or equal to, and then 21 divided by negative 2 gave me negative 10.5. All right. As far as my number line, and again, like I said, you can see I have the key points on here. Here's my 0, and then over here I've got my negative 10. Again, you do not need to number everything in between here, especially when the numbers get kind of large. All right, so here's my negative 10, here's my negative 11. We need negative 10.5, so I know that will be right between those two. This one is a solid dot, again, because it says less than or equal to. So I've got my solid dot at the negative 10.5, less than or equal to, again, shading to the left. All right, and example number 4. All right, so again, similar to number 3, you'll notice we have some parentheses in there, so we're going to have to distribute. In addition to that, you'll notice there's kind of this extra number here, so I'm just not really going to worry about that for a minute. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and distribute. All right, so we have 4x, and then 4 times the minus 2, so that would give me 4x minus 8. Again, the 6 was not inside the parentheses, so you'll notice I did not multiply that times the 4. All right, the negative 8 and the negative 6, or minus 8, minus 6, those are, I'm going to go ahead and combine those because they're right next to each other. All right, so that means I would have 4x minus 14 greater than 18. And at this point, we can just keep on going, trying to get the x by itself. So I'm going to add 14 to both sides. Okay, that would give me 4x greater than 32. And then my last step, divide both sides by 4. Okay, so we have x is greater than 8. All right, so on my number line, again, got some of my key markings on my number line here. We've got 0. Okay, my 8 is a positive 8, it's way over here. And again, this one just says greater than. It does not have the equal sign. So you'll notice that I have an open circle at 8. Greater than means to all the numbers to the right. Okay, there you go. Good luck.